AEW Forbidden Door, a record-setting experience at the O2 Arena. I'm going to let you know my thoughts of Forbidden Door 2025 with my Cans of Whoop-Ass review metric. I'm Maverick, as always, and this is Screw the Script. Welcome back, everybody, to Screw the Script. I'm your host, as always, Maverick. Great to have you all joining with me in this video. If you are new here, give me a thumbs up. Throw in a comment on how you felt about Forbidden Door. And if you feel the desire to subscribe, please subscribe. It'd be greatly appreciated. Now, getting on to Forbidden Door, I'm going to waste no time. I am bringing back my Cans of Whoop-Ass review metric. I have done a handful of times now on my channel. If you've been around, you understand. But for those of you who are new, for every AEW pay-per-view and WWE PLE, I do a Cans of Whoop-Ass review metric to go over it real quick. It's a 1 to 6 cans of Whoop-Ass rating, a 6-pack being the best that you can get. It's high regards, very, very rare to get a 6 out of 6 cans of Whoop-Ass. I also do a full show rating at the end of rating each match. And I know it's different for some people, but for my rating system, a 3 out of 6 cans of Whoop-Ass is an average match. To some of you, you might think that that's a bad match, but 3 out of 6 is average. Basically, it's bad match, poor, average, above average, good, and great for 6. That's how the system and rating goes. So without further ado, let's get into the first match of Forbidden Door. Real quick, before I get to the review, they did sell out the O2 Arena. Not only sold out, but they set a record highest attendance in the O2 Arena history. It even beat out a 2023 show for WWE. You can see it up there. Incredible. And then this other graphic shows that they are the kings of the UK. Between the O2 Arena and Wembley Stadium, they have the biggest sellout crowds of history for pro wrestling. AEW owns the United Kingdom. They just travel much better, I think, than WWE. And it shows. Australia, we got dates for that coming up. The UK is definitely dominated by AEW, and their New Japan partnership is great with all their Japanese stuff. The only market that they just need to really work on is Canada and the US. That's really all it is, and I see them going into 2026 improving that over time. So I am recording this fresh for you guys. You are going to be seeing this at some point Monday morning, Central Standard Time anyways. For those of you who view this outside of that time zone, you'll see at some point Monday. So there's the card. I have it up for you. I'm going to try and remember, as I just watched it fresh, like I said, I'm about an hour post-show. I'm going to try and remember as best as I can the match order and just kind of go from there. I do remember the first match was Adam Copeland and Christian Cage versus, a little confusing here, he's still going by Killswitch instead of Luchasaurus, even though the crowd was chanting Luchasaurus during this whole match, for him anyway. Adam Copeland, Christian Cage comes out on top on an average 10-minute tag match. Nothing to write home about here, but it wasn't a bad match. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 6 cans of Whoop-Ass, with a touching moment at the end, with the two, Christian Cage didn't want to hug him, but he at least shook his hand. He's warming back up to him. I know this is going to lead to, hopefully, fingers crossed, a final title run for this historic and Hall of Fame tag team that we have in Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. I love the crowd engagement all night long, was phenomenal for entrances. They sang their hearts out to Adam's theme song that is iconic at this point. Really solid opener. Nothing great by any means, but it was not a bad match. So like I said, 3 out of 6 cans of Whoop-Ass. Now, I may be mistaken. I'm trying to remember right. I believe the next match was the IWGP Heavyweight Championship match. Again, I could be wrong. I could be off by a match. Zack Saber Jr., Nigel McGuinness. Again, just a solid match. Nothing to write home about. Wasn't a bad match. It was nice to see Nigel in the ring again. I really did think that they could have told a better story at the end by having Danny Garcia turn heel and costing Nigel the match rather than it just being a clean finish. That's what I would have done to probably boost this match a little bit more and begin a new storyline between those two. I would have really liked that, to see Nigel have a legit feud and run in AEW, not just come back for another match and then go back to commentary. I would have rated it higher than what I'm about to give it if they had done something along the lines of that. But nonetheless, it was a good match. Not a great match by any means. This is also going to get a 3 out of 6 cans of whoop ass, as Zack Saber Jr. retains by beating Nigel McGuinness. That's all I really had to say on that match. I wasn't super hyped for this match by any means, but still a solid match. Then I believe we moved on to the 4-way women's match with Mercedes, and then we had Alex Windsor. My first time ever seeing Bozilla. I knew nothing about her. And Persephone, I've seen her a few times from CMLL, I believe. This was probably the best match of the night up until this point. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 6 cans of whoop ass. I enjoyed the unique offense between all 4 competitors in this women's match. Mercedes does still come out on top. I cannot believe she has 9 belts. I think that is absolutely ludicrous to have 9 belts. I get that most of them are smaller indie promotions, but regardless, that's a lot to keep track of, a lot to hold on to. But say what you want about Mercedes, she really is a fantastic performer in the ring. So she does, I feel like she does deserve what she is getting. Again, solid match, giving us a 4 out of 6. Then I believe we went on to the TNT Championship match between Kyle Fletcher and Tanahashi. I want to say this match should have been better. I was hoping for this match to be one of my favorite matches of the night, but I'm still going to give it a 4 out of 6 cans of whip ass. Kyle Fletcher is a fucking star. I've said it plenty of times, and I'll say it again. I knew he wasn't going to drop the title in this match, so it was a rather predictable match. But it was better than I feel like a lot of people probably gave it credit for before the match started and progressed. And for that reason, I'm giving it a 4 out of 6 cans of whip ass. We see Kyle Fletcher retain. I think he's going to hold on to that belt for many months before someone eventually does take it off of him. I've mentioned in the past, I think Kevin Knight would be perfect to kind of eventually transition into singles competition and maybe feud with Kyle Fletcher. It can go in many directions. I'm excited to see where the TNT Championship goes. But for now, 4 out of 6 cans of whoop ass for this match. Then I believe we moved on to the tag team 3-way match between Hurt Syndicate. We had BRODITO and FTR. This was one of my favorite matches of the night, actually. A lot of things happened. We saw Ricochet and the Gates of Agony get involved that actually cost the titles for the Hurt Syndicate, as my mind was blown. What I thought was the least likely thing to happen happened. Still in 2025, I am very shocked by some things that happen in AEW that I genuinely love. We saw new champions, not in FTR, but BRODITO. We kind of had a botchy end. That's the only thing that I can knock this match for, is the finish to the match was a little botchy, but, it is what it is. But I am going to still give this match a 5 out of 6 cans of whoop ass. It was top 3 match for me on the night. I loved it from start to finish. I love the synergy with BRODITO, and now they are our tag team champions. I don't imagine them holding it on for very long, but holy shit was I blown back when I saw them pick up the victory. And then we saw, like I mentioned a moment ago, Ricochet and Gates of Agony. Now, that could have been anybody. At one point, I thought it was MJF, and then maybe Wardlow and Alexander Hammerstone, for example, and those 3. They were going to reform the Pinnacle 2.0. We did not see that. It was Ricochet and Gates of Agony. Looks like we're going to see maybe a feud between those 3 and MVP and the Hurt syndicate going forward. We did see somebody, though, that I just mentioned. We'll get to that later on, though. But yes, 5 out of 6 cans of whoop-ass. Top 3 match of the night for me. And we have new champs in BRODITO. Now we're moving on to basically the 4 matches that could have been main event for any other pay-per-view besides this one, because this card was fucking stacked. We'll start with Swerve Strickland versus Okada. This was actually my second favorite match of the night. A little shocking because I knew that Okada was going to retain, especially after we all saw the news earlier in the week that it looks like Swerve is going to have knee surgery. He's had a lingering knee issue for a very long time, apparently. Not anything new. And I think he's finally going to get this done. But the match was, it kept me on my feet regardless of how I knew how it was going to end. It was a really, really good match. Okada is really coming to his own in AEW. He's a much different Okada than New Japan Okada, but I really liked this match. Don Callis coming out with him, holding the old titles around his waist and shoulder. Okada with the unified around his waist. Goddamn, I'll say it again. Don Callis is the best manager in pro wrestling right now. He takes a fat shit on Paul Heyman and their crew going on in WWE. I love Seth Rollins, but I really just don't think that whole faction is really working for me. The Don Callis family grew even stronger tonight, as after this match, I think to write off Swerve Strickland, he got his leg crushed by Okada, but then we saw a returning Wardlow. Not where I thought he was going to return. So I am extremely shocked by this. It looks like he is joining the Don Callis family as he attacked Swerve. We saw Takeshita come out and basically gave his seal of approval to have him join as the two stared each other up and down for a few moments. This was beautiful. Beautiful storytelling to further storylines. We're going to see Swerve out for a little bit, but then he is going to come back, probably feud with the Don Callis family for some time. I'm interested to see where Wardlow fits in all this. There's a lot of very interesting factors going on in the Don Callis family. They are dominant, as both of the Don Callis family champions successfully defended tonight. Okada came out on top. I am giving this a 5 out of 6 cans of whoop-ass as well. Next, we'll get on to Toni Storm versus Athena. I'm a little let down by this match. It was still a solid match nonetheless, but probably one of the weaker Toni Storm matches at a pay-per-view event. I'm giving this a 4 out of 6 cans of whoop-ass still, as it was still a pretty solid match. We saw Toni Storm retain. Again, I was kind of hoping for a little bit more here. We just saw her retain. It almost kind of fell flat for me at the end, the finish. I don't know what it was that made me feel that way, but I really thought that there was room there for Athena and Billy Starks to kind of get at it and kind of further a storyline beyond this Toni Storm storyline where those two could have feuded, but we didn't see that. Nonetheless, Toni Storm is still your AEW Women's Championship. She is still, in my mind, the best women's pro wrestler in all of wrestling right now. She retains 4 out of 6 cans of whoop-ass. Now let's get on to the main event and co-main event. We'll talk about the co-main event first, which this was a hard pill to swallow for me. Hangman and MJF had a good match. I'm giving it a 4 out of 6 cans of whoop-ass. It wasn't bad, but I really thought it was going to be better than it was. The weird stuff that happened with Bryce, the fucking weird foot on the ropes, but he still hit the 3 count, and normally that ends a match regardless if the referee catches it or not. The match didn't even end at all. Then you saw Briscoe come out. Mark Briscoe comes out, but doesn't ever actually get in the ring. He just kind of distracts MJF briefly. I don't know. It was it's just a little sloppy to me. You let me know if you agree or not. Maybe I'm being a little too hard on the main event, or co-main event rather. I still liked the match. It still was very back and forth. The crowd loved it. Great engagement. So I can't, knock it for that at all. and it is still sitting at a 4 out of 6. I don't know. I'm hoping that Hangman can kind of have a better World Heavyweight Championship match with the next one that he has, whether that'll be at All Out. We'll see who his opponent is for that. It's just 4 out of 6. Honestly, probably one of the more forgettable AEW Championship matches for me. Lastly, we're going to talk about this insane cage match. This was my other third favorite match of the night. It felt like Anarchy in the Arena if it was enclosed into a cage, and it did very much feel like that. Really, really solid match. All kinds of fun spots. Darby Allin, my God, the ear spot was insane with Jon Moxley. The crowd was chanting, "You sick fuck." Him and Gabe Kidd falling through the stack of 4 tables on the outside was a crazy spot. The only thing I can knock this for and give it a high 4 out of 6, the highest of the 4 out of 6 cans of whoop asses for the ratings. I can't quite give it a 5 for a couple of reasons. One, Tanahashi just looked awful in the match. I'm going to be honest. He did not fit in very well. He was extremely slow, very stiff. A lot of the things he did not look like it hurt at all. He's a legend in New Japan, but I really don't think he fit well into this match. And 2, surprisingly, no return to help Ospreay at the end. We just saw after the match, we saw the good guys win, Darby's team win. But why in the hell did we not see anybody, come back? Maybe Eddie Kingston, I was expecting somebody to stop what they were doing to Will Ospreay. Now, again, I know he's being written off as well because he's got to have like neck fusion surgery or something like that. So we are going to be without Swerve and Ospreay, which is going to be rough for AEW going into 2026. I think they'll be okay. But I don't know. There was something weird about this end where the crowd was just kind of silent. They weren't really reacting to it. They were like, okay, is this needed? We already saw them win the match. Why are they attacking them afterwards? And why is nobody really getting in to help? Nobody returned to help. I think everybody was being quiet, waiting for somebody to return, maybe Eddie Kingston, for example, and nothing. So I think the ending kind of fell flat to an otherwise fun and amazing cage match. Considering it was 5-on-5, there were spots everywhere. The Young Bucks stuff was hilarious. The Gummy Bears. I mean, a lot of good stuff happened in this match still. That's why it's still getting a high 4 out of 6 cans of whoop ass. But I do feel like there was a lot of room for what could have been, or even in my mind, what should have been the ending, the outcome after the match ended. And again, probably a replacement for Tanahashi because he was just too slow and stiff in that match. Forbidden Door 2025, I'm going to give an overall rating of a high 4 out of 6 cans of whoop ass. I couldn't quite give it a 5 out of 6 because there were too many matches that were 4 out of 6 and a couple 3 out of 6 matches for me that were just average matches. It's very hard for any company to follow up All In because All In, I think, not only was the best show of 2025 and probably will be the best by the end of 2025, it was arguably AEW's best start to finish all around pay-per-view ever. So it was hard for anything to follow up that. This show was still a really good show. I'm going to be giving it a 4 out of 6 cans of whoop ass. That's all I had on this episode of Screw the Script. You let me know down below your thoughts on Forbidden Door 2025. Let me know what your favorite matches were, your favorite moments were of the show, and let me know where you think this is going forward for Hangman with his championship. The Death Riders, I think they're going to dissipate slowly now that they lost yet again, but who knows after they attacked Will Ospreay. Let me know what you think about Toni Storm and where she goes from this, and other things down below in the comments. As always, this has been Maverick with Screw the Script. Thanks for watching.